today. Ken, I know we'll be commencing interviews of the potential consultants for our coastal path, fishing pier, and kayak launch. And that's supposed to start right at 10 o'clock. Is that going to be in here, Ken?
It is.
It is,
So we
okay.
can keep them out as long as you need.
Pardon?
We can keep them out of here as long as you need.
Well, I cut back on the agenda quite a bit, knowing that we would only have an hour and we have to get to the most important things that require our attention. And if I could, I'll save the resident comments to the end, Linda, although I know you might have something to say about last night's open house. Congratulations. Thank you for doing that, and I'm glad you had a good turnout.
Thank you.
Could we call the meeting to order? It is 9:06, and could we have a roll call, Ken?
We have Derek Sullivan, Judy Whiteside, Dan Butler, and Ken Buckland. We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Item 2 on authority business, under authority business, item 1 is discussion and possible vote on payment of an annual stipend of up to $7,500 to Wareham's Director of Planning and Community Development for work supporting the Wareham Redevelopment Authority.
I move to authorize the payment of the annual stipend of $7,500.
And do I hear a second?
Historically, I've abstained, so you've got Ken here, so I don't know what it does to the motion.
Okay, I'll second it.
Yeah, because it would be, that's what I'm just trying to figure out, because it would be if Ken and I both abstain, what does that do to it?
Would a
Does it
2-0?
pass?
It doesn't pass it. Yeah, so one of you has to vote. There's no problem in him voting,
No, it's,
or if one,
he
yeah.
shouldn't vote for himself.
I shouldn't vote for myself. I don't think that's a goal.
No, it's putting
Okay.
me in a tough situation too, but I will vote out of necessity on it.
Okay. I think your vote is important too, because you know whether Ken does anything good for the WRA or not. You see him every day.
You
I hang out on it sometimes.
Yeah, you make that sound like a good thing for Ken.
They're trying to find him when he really doesn't want to be found.
Okay, we have a motion then to pay an annual stipend to our Director of Planning and Community Development for his contributions and specific efforts on behalf of the Wareham Redevelopment Authority. Do I hear any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Roll call vote, sir.
I'm sorry?
Roll call
Why are
vote.
we doing roll call?
I don't
So
know.
I can
Are
abstain, yes.
We're in open session.
we're just being recorded, we're not, thank you, very
Yes.
good, forget it.
Why, would you have to have a roll call otherwise?
If you're hybrid, yes,
Oh, okay, thank you. All righty.
sorry.
In that case,
We're organic.
I'll call for a vote. All in favor, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain, any abstentions?
Yeah.
Okay, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Ken, if you could just make sure Sonia gets me the appropriate paperwork, I'll sign that. I'll swing by.
All right.
Now Gary gets to run you into the ground, Ken.
And Ms. Whiteside, thank you for pointing out that we are being recorded today by WCTV, Wareham Community Television. John, thank you for doing this for us. I think the citizens of Wareham appreciate it. I noticed that your recording of the August 24th meeting was up on your YouTube channel, and it got about 35 views, I think, which 2 of them were probably me. So you got about 33 other people that tuned in, so thank you. Really appreciate that.
So
Item-
you're saying we're gonna drive up our viewership, each of us needs to watch about 100 times, and we
Yeah.
can be the hottest item?
Yeah, one was probably the general, one was probably Ken.
What did you eat for breakfast?
It's sitting in the other room.
He's been saving this up. All right, discussion and possible vote on design of the Wareham Village Fishing Pier, Kayak Launch, and Coastal Path. Ken, would you like to bring the group up to date on that?
Well, we have 4 interviews on this today. We had 4 applications, 4 proposals submitted from Stoss Design, Halverson, which is part of Ty and Bond now, and Waterfield Design Group and Horsley and Witten. Except for Waterfield Design Group, the others are teamed with coastal engineers, and other firms that support them. I think it's a good group of people. I think we have a possibility of going beyond a simple design of a fishing pier, kayak launch, and coastal path, and have something that is an identifiable public amenity in the downtown, and could be quite an attraction if it's designed correctly.
Are you talking, I'm sorry, so this would be, from the train station across, is that sort of the concept, or have they given you different?
It's everything on the other side of the tracks.
Okay. Did you notice that the tracks have been very obviously now signed by the railroad there? Now they're these greenish-y, kind of that color signs right at the crossing at Narrows. You can't miss it now.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, they used to be white and sort of, but now it's that bilious green.
Well, we want them to pay for a fence as well too, but they're trying to get us to pay for a fence on there. And that's something we may want to negotiate further with them in the future, because we don't want an ugly fence either. And
No.
No, so where or do the different proposals give you a different entryway? Is it across from?
Is that what we're seeing after this? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, see, I don't know.
Yeah, we don't have actual proposals yet.
Oh, okay.
These are
Oh,
proposals
okay.
to be the
All right.
consultant, to give us the
Okay.
design.
So we don't- We put it out just by saying we wanted to be able to get there and use it? Is that how we
yeah,
put
we
it
want to
out?
use it, so we
Got
want
it.
to design, and we have
Okay.
our concept is a fishing pier, a kayak launch, and a coastal path.
Okay,
Other than that, we don't have any thoughts per
Okay.
se, unless
excellent.
you want additional.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure that we all understood what we were doing.
One of the questions I have for the group of consultants coming in is, designers coming in is, how are they gonna relate to the environmental justice community that
Mhm.
lives nearby and frequents the coastline? I think that's a kind of a key, it can't be, it's gotta be egalitarian.
Thank you.
That's one of the questions I have, is sea level rise, how high are we gonna have to go? If you saw what Gary had to do with the finger piers, over at Onset, the height of those pylons is massive.
Yeah.
That's actually, so are we going to have to raise that up? If we raise it up, is it ADA accessible? What's the plans on that?
Right, how do we handle that?
Yeah.
Well, if you look at Danny Warren's pier poles, they're way up there.
Yeah.
And that's why they're way up there. I mean, they're really tall pilings.
Yeah.
16 feet,
Is that what it is?
I think it's 16,
Yeah.
16, 17 feet.
So are we going to have to go that high on a fishing pier?
The other question I guess I would
Probably
ask,
so.
yeah, the other question I was asking, a high tide and not an abnormally high tide, the docks down at Bessie do this. They're anchored here, but the tide,
Oh, because
instead
they're
of,
anchored, yeah.
yeah, and they do this, they actually wing up because the water is so high.
Right,
It's really high. and
That's what they're built for, yeah.
We anchored
they're
down.
not built for the high tides that
Right.
we're getting.
So they're not, yeah, but it's really, it's obvious regularly that the tide level is coming up more all the time.
It'll be
Yeah, well,
a lot
that's
this
the,
weekend.
that's sort of the question, is this going, if you build a pier way up high there, it's nonsensical for what we're looking to do.
Yeah,
So is it not a static, is it
Right.
one
It
that's
has to be a floater, it
Floating,
has to
yeah.
be
That's-
movable, yeah.
right, that's been just
Yeah.
for the height of the water.
And then your ramps, because if you're, well, it's physics, but, if you have a short ramp, it can only go a certain distance. And some of the ramps that I've seen actually go onto the pier much longer because the rise has to be so much
Yeah.
longer.
That's right, and it's a 2% slope for an ADA access, so
Right,
it's,
so you could end
it's
up
really long distance.
Really long distance, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting to see some of them in other places. They're really long.
Yeah, obviously it's gonna take some design effort, and that's why we're hiring a designer to do this.
The other issue is it's a state waterway, right? Cause didn't Danny have to go through?
We'll have to get permission from
Yeah.
MassDOT to not just to cross, but to have the easement and then go into there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, okay.
And we'll have to get the state approval for permanent, the facility as well, too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Ken, I like the proposals that we saw that they sent in. It looked like all the consultants have experience with MassDOT, and they've done projects before where they've had to collaborate with MassDOT, so I look forward to seeing who you select. And by the way, I'll be able to help you with the first interview, but Madam Whiteside, I will not be able to do any others after that today. So you're welcome to step in. We won't have a
pickleball tourney?
no, I wish.
Well, you can
Don't worry,
see
we'll
where
get
his
you out there, Mr.
priorities
Sullivan.
are.
I'm sorry?
I said, yeah, I can see where your priorities are. Have you done?
No, he's played, he
I
hasn't
played,
with-
not against.
We haven't
No,
played
not,
yet.
I was gonna say,
No.
isn't there a championship match coming up?
We've got 4 here now, we
Yeah,
could probably
very good.
get something going.
I can't play.
Oh.
Sorry, been told no.
All right, Jared, may have to press you into action here.
I don't, did they ask you?
I played already, yeah.
Oh, you have? Ah,
He played darn well too, I'll add.
really?
Yeah, oh,
He's got the
he
wingspan.
I was
dazzled,
gonna say, wingspan wins,
he
yeah.
dazzled them down in Onset.
Did you?
Yeah, it did.
Was it fun?
It was fun. Yeah.
Good.
I'm gonna bring my 80s socks, hike them up to here, have the headband on,
The tight shorts.
the Larry Bird shorts on.
While we're talking about it, Ken, could we add to the coastal path, fishing pier and kayak launch a pickleball trip?
You're relentless in pickleball.
Like Dubai, where they have the tennis courts on it. You gotta play.
Yeah. All right, Ken, thank you for the update. Appreciate that, and we look forward to hopefully a consultant that can help us make this a reality.
Yeah.
Because I need to put the names in the minutes.
Item 3, discussion and possible vote to expend up to $1,500 for street banners for Wareham's 2023 Veterans Day Parade. Ms. Whiteside, do you have anything can you elaborate on that?
Sure. The Wareham Militia and the town of Wareham are co-sponsoring a Veterans Day Parade for the first time in 6 years. COVID struck, but also there had been a lack of interest for years. And the committee consists of the militia, because that's our fundraising arm, if you will, because the town would not be able to accept donations and then spend it immediately. We have raised $8,000 to date. Community events
That's great.
pledged up to $10,000 for advertising, which would be advertising, media advertising and banners and things like that. And we have, I think it's 45 units, and a unit can be either a car or a marching band or a stilt walker. In fact, we have stilt walkers, we have balloon twisters, we have face painters, those will be on the sidewalk. We have the Clydesdales, we have 2
Clydesdales?
Clydesdales and a carriage
No kidding.
for our main speaker, whatever you call him, the keynote speaker.
The
We-
marshal of the parade, or?
We have 2 grand marshals, both of them are in their 90s, and we have to figure out how to help them get up onto the 2 stages. They both are veterans. One of them has the last name of Fearing. The militia,
Wow.
of course, has originally had Fearing, so there's this wonderful connection of people and names and whatever. The limit for the number of units is 90, so, and as I say, each car counts as one, but we have a lot of things going on. And I had talked with Mr. Buckland about possibly changing what are they called, banners?
The street
The
banners.
street banners on Main Street. They're about from that to the ceiling, they're 6 feet by 4 feet or something like that,
2 feet.
2 feet. They're humongous, but they don't look so humongous. But Ken had made up a design that says honor your veterans, I
Right,
think.
right.
And
Admonishment, yeah.
yeah, and that would be the ones that are there right now would be taken down and replaced by these. We have the 2 fire departments, We have our police department, 2 fire departments have honor guards, one of them doesn't. The police department has an honor guard. We have all sorts of things going on, and as Derek said.
And we have the fire department willing to put the banners up as well too.
Yes, and the fire department on Main Street is going to be hanging on the,
Wareham Fire.
well, yes, Wareham Fire location, but the onset ladder truck, the Wareham ladder truck is
Yeah,
out of
Which is
commission right now.
awesome between the two
Right.
of them.
So they're going to they're gonna bring the ladder truck and hang, the gigundous American flag. The reviewing
Wow,
stand
that'd be neat.
for the parade will be at Wareham Fire, Main Street. And the ceremony's going to be at Bessie Park. At Center Park. The parade steps off from essentially Bessie Park. All of the churches in town have agreed to ring their bells at 11 o'clock.
Oh, neat.
And the parade will stop at 11 o'clock, no matter where they are, and everyone will be silent for 11:11:11.
That's neat.
So it's on a roll. Derek said to me the other day, "Why are you doing this? Did you have spare time?" I said, No, I didn't, but I had a lot of family members who went to Vietnam. So the ask was would WRA, in the effort to, build community, be able to supply those banners on behalf of the parade, on behalf of the town?
So do we need a lift for the Grand Marshals? Is that what you're saying?
We're renting the stages from Chase, and
Taller than?
one of them's 2 feet up. They both have railings around them, but one of the gentlemen has a bad hip, and we're not sure he can go up the stairs. So we're working on how to do that. I don't wanna have a reviewing stand and have the gentleman, in a car. I wanna be able to get them on the stage, but
Wouldn't the firefighters be able to figure that one out?
I haven't gotten that far.
Okay.
The 2 Grand Marshal candidates, or people who really we think will do it, we need to make them comfortable. There's also a lunch for veterans only, veterans and +1 at the Congregational Church. That has been fully donated. It's a meal, roast beef and whatever. That would be at approximately 1 o'clock after the ceremony. The ceremony's from 12 to whatever.
Prime rib or roast?
Prime rib,
Sounds neat. Sounds like it's gonna be
totally donated.
It's nice.
So this
Nice.
community has stepped up. A lot of local businesses have stepped up. In fact, we're having a check passing ceremony this afternoon at 4 o'clock. We being the group that's actually going to the militia, a $500 donation from the local bank. And we've had $1,000 donations, we've had $25 donations. That's wonderful. Participation is key.
Yeah.
The VFW auxiliary group will be serving the meal at the Congregational Church. It's a sit-down meal, it's not, buffet, because that takes too long. It's,
It's okay to serve those that served.
plus we will have the empty table,
Oh, okay, good.
so,
Well, it sounds like it's gonna be a great day.
yeah.
Thank you for resurrecting the tradition of a Veterans Day parade. I might mention that my wife's birthday is 11/11, so I'll tell her we're throwing a parade.
In her honor, I think that's great. I have to give credit to Alan Slavin as well. Alan and I kick things around from time to time, and Alan really wanted to bring this back to honor Bob White, who did an enormous amount on behalf of the veterans of this town, recorded interviews with veterans. They're on file with the library and I believe at WCTV. It's recorded history, and he also was extremely involved in bringing the moving wall here. And that
That's right.
had to have been the best event ever.
I've
in
had
this
people
town.
at the pickleball courts tell me about the moving wall,
It was unbelievable.
what that meant to them when
It
they
was
saw that come to
unbelievable.
town.
It was a week-long ceremony, and it started off with Cat Jones singing the the anthem and I guess they were F-15s coming out of Otis, just as she hit the last note and those suckers came over the horizon. It just blew us all away. It was unreal. It was really unreal. So anyway, that's why we hit you up. We being the group of people who are putting this together.
Thank you, ma'am. It seems like it's consistent with what our stated goal is, which is to revitalize Wareham Village. That's one of the things we're working hard on. I see where it's appropriate, in my own opinion. Do we have any other discussion? Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
And if there's no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Do you want me to abstain?
I would abstain.
I'll abstain, yeah.
We've already had a call wired, wise the veterans.
Yep.
Parade committee, not a public meeting, yada, yada, yada.
Right, it's
So
not,
I just
yeah.
don't want
Yep.
any muck being thrown
Yep.
at what's a good thing.
Okay, the motion passes 3-0 with one abstention.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Whiteside.
Thank you.
The next item, follow-up discussion and possible vote on Sip and Stroll Wareham. Derek, while you were on your Canadian adventure, we had a terrific presentation before the WRA from Ms. Lorna Brunel. She's the foundress of Sip and Stroll Middleborough. They now have 4 Sip and Strolls a year in Middleborough on the Town Hall green, I guess you'd call it. They bring in 84 vendors for each Sip and Stroll. They have fun things for the kids, pony rides, face painting, balloons, and things like that. And the local merchants have benefited dramatically from these events. Not only do they make a lot of money, more than normal on those days, those Sip and Stroll days, but then they've successfully exposed residents and visitors to their businesses, and they get repeat business as a result.
It's interesting, how some of the businesses downtown, or, I know from Mary's, that she'll have people walk in and say, geez, I never knew this was a restaurant. She said, well, how long have you lived in town? 15 years? So it's still a little shocking.
Yeah, Lorna has proposed bringing Sip and Stroll to Wareham. She sees the Merchants Way venue as a terrific diamond in the rough, as she stated at our last meeting. She particularly appreciates how we can take advantage of the beauty of that location, the water, the history, the old train depot. She had a lot of great ideas. At our last meeting, we voted on a motion presented by Ms. Whiteside to engage Ms. Brunel in trying to bring Sip and Stroll to Wareham. And
I'll be right back after this.
Yep. And during my last conversation with her, she has identified a potential date in April, and we're hoping that she can start to bring a plan together. And Mr. Sullivan, I think one of the things that is of particular interest to you is that she will be requesting support from the town, police detail, fire detail, but in Middleborough, she has always paid for that. She's been able to pay for that out of proceeds from the event. So it's at no cost to the town and little or no risk to the town. We've already taken a vote to engage Ms. Brunel to try and bring Sip and Stroll to Wareham. I don't know that we need anything else, but I wanted to make sure that members were up to date on where we are with that at this point, and it looks like we're moving forward.
That's great.
Next item, discussion and possible vote on draft WV-1R sub-district design guidelines and performance standards. Ken, we briefly talked about it at our last meeting, but do you have any updates?
I do. What I'm handing out now is draft design guidelines that were actually adopted by the planning board. So these are in place in the planning board rules and regulations. And the question is whether or not we adopt these also in the urban renewal plan.
When were they adopted, Ken?
I believe it was in June,
Oh,
June meeting.
Oh, really? Okay. Is this something we could add as an appendix and make reference to it in the urban renewal plan?
We could if we agree with the design guidelines, yes.
because as I looked through them, they look like excellent guidelines. It's a great start, and I think they convey what we were trying to convey, that we want any revitalization of Wareham Village to be tasteful, and we want it to become more attractive. And these guidelines and performance standards seem like they would help achieve that, and they give the planning board guidelines for themselves in order to help them hold potential developers to account in terms of what we expect in Wareham Village. I think it would be good to put in the urban renewal plan, because the folks that see the urban renewal plan probably would have that question. What do we actually envision? And these lay out pretty well that we expect any development down there to be tasteful and to make downtown more attractive. Is there any reason not to include them?
I don't think so. They're being tested out right now by Mr. Warren at the 176 Main Street. They didn't have to, because the design guidelines aren't in force on them right now because of the timing of the article that was approved. But they are following through with showing conformance with the design guidelines and performance standards. And I think it's being successful in that case.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to recommend to our consultant, Emily Innes, that we include these design guidelines as some sort of an appendix or whatever she views as appropriate in our urban renewal plan for Wareham Village?
Do you mind if we just have a longer look at it, Dan, for this? Is there?
You wanna wait?
Yeah, is there an emergency on this, or?
No.
Oh,
there's not. There's not. Okay, let's
So
defer that.
We'll review and bring it back for the next meeting. if
Yeah, that
that's
sounds
okay.
right.
Yeah, I don't see why we would not have something in harmony with the planning board's guidelines, but I think it's.
We want to make
important.
sure that it's conformance with what we're looking to do.
Okay. Good
And
point, good point, Derek.
And they voted these in?
They voted them in, so these are rules and regulations,
Yeah, so the planning board rules and regs.
right?
Okay, next
So any
item.
application they get, they'll have to follow these
Mm-hmm.
design guidelines.
Okay, next item. Wareham Village Urban Renewal Plan update, results of planning board review and determination regarding whether the Wareham Village Urban Renewal Plan comports with the town master plan. Mr. Buckland?
The planning board has not taken that item up yet.
Okay. Any prospect for that anytime soon, or are they waiting until we give them a more polished final product?
They're waiting until after town meeting.
Okay,
So sort of so if we're in the chicken and the egg scenario, Ken, my understanding is after town meeting, they'll take it up? Is that like the next meeting, the next month, or just sort of generally?
Just sort of generally. I think they took on an awful lot this town meeting, with
yeah.
the zoning articles, and they're pretty busy with those.
Yeah, and they still have their regular gigs to do too.
Exactly. So I assume that they'll be able to take it up pretty soon after the town meeting.
Okay. Give them a breather, Ken.
Yeah.
okay, thank you, Ken.
If I
Item
don't
B.
get one, they don't get one.
Item B, discussion and possible vote on Wareham Village Urban Renewal Plan determination of necessity declaration. Ken?
Emily had drafted up a determination of necessity for us. I don't know, though, if I send it around to the authority.
I haven't seen it, but that doesn't mean you didn't send it. I might have missed it. Sorry, ma'am.
I probably didn't send it.
Yeah, I just did a quick and dirty search for it and I didn't see it.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm wondering if Emily had sent it to me then.
all right. Ken, can we just get that out, and then I'll put it on the next agenda, and we'll take the appropriate vote?
Right, that would be a letter that we'll have to adopt. We'll have to
Okay.
finalize.
And item C, discussion and possible vote on contracting for a Wareham Village Urban Renewal Plan consultant to prepare relevant submissions to the Massachusetts Environmental Policy Act office. Ken, do you want to refresh our memories on what's required here?
Yeah, this could be an expensive undertaking. What I'm discovering is, in talking with the MIPA office and knowing from past experience in MIPA reviews, this could be a significant cost to prepare this documentation. I'm talking about over 100,000.
Okay.
So,
It's my understanding that a year or two ago, it would not have been required, but now it is.
now it is, yes.
So the MIPA submission is necessary for the urban renewal plan due to the location? Or just?
Just an urban renewal plan, period.
So is the goal to search for grants for this, or is there grants?
Not that I'm aware of. I can try and see what's available, but I'm not sure of any grants that are available for MIPA reviews.
So, and we've been in the process of this urban renewal plan for a little bit, and that changed recently?
That changed within the last couple of years.
I think we talked about this a couple of meetings ago. I'm not sure Derek was here when we talked about it.
Yeah, we did.
I remember the $100,000.
And we cannot finish an urban renewal plan without this?
That's correct.
How
So
much
that puts a
of,
damper on what we're trying to accomplish with,
what have we expended so far on it, the URP? Grants, anything like that?
we've spent about 60,000.
Bit of a catch-22.
Yeah, it was we got a good deal on the creation of the urban renewal plan. Otherwise, it probably would have been 120 by itself for an urban renewal plan from anybody else, except for, we got a good deal for Emily with the work she did on it.
And as I understand it, she does not do this, she does not do this. This is not her specialty.
No, she doesn't.
Was she able to suggest folks that are good at this and might be within our price range?
I can ask her. I think she knows the same people I know, and
Okay.
I don't think there's it's a formulaic process for MIPA review. You have to do an ENF, an environmental notification form first, and then get scoped out for the EIR. And then there's an environmental impact report that has to be prepared. And at that point, the MIPA office decides on what the scope of the work is gonna be, and then you can tell how expensive it's gonna be by how much detail they want in the different areas of their concern.
So you have to spend a bunch of money to have them tell you how much more you're gonna spend. Ain't bureaucracy great?
Ken, what do you propose at this stage?
Opening a firm that does environmental impact reports.
I'm sorry?
Opening a firm that does environmental impact reports.
Yeah, it's obviously important, but it's just these extras that make it impossible. What it does is it makes the wealthy areas be able to stay wealthy and do all the things.
Right.
And it's it's an unfair
It's frustrating,
impact,
isn't it? Yeah.
especially for an environmental justice community and such. That's where I would think there would be opportunities.
Well, maybe there is a grant or two, maybe I could try and see if there's something that, and play on the environmental justice, idea.
Yeah, that's a big thing with it, is they're looking to really work in environmental justice communities and make them, help them out, so.
Right.
Okay, Ken, so I understand then, next steps would be you're gonna see if you can find grant money
Yes,
that would allow us to do this, and in the interim, do we need to get an RFP out to try to identify a consultant and select a consultant that would be able to do this for us? Is there any reason to hold off on that?
I think, we should decide whether or not we want to complete our urban renewal plan based on the cost of the MIPA review.
Do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, I do. It depends on what level of effort we're gonna put into the urban renewal plan. If we are gonna be aggressive, then I think we have to do it. And aggressive, I mean that we get involved in property takings and repositioning property in the downtown. If we're gonna apply the powers of the urban renewal plan and the urban renewal authority, then we have to get the MIPA review done, and that's gonna be an important aspect of it. If we're not gonna be, if we're gonna play hands-off and just try to encourage the redevelopment of the downtown, then in that case, I think it's probably not worth spending the money.
That's a
Okay.
good point.
Any reaction? Mr. Sullivan, Ms. Whiteside?
No, I think this whole thing's been fluid. We've had the response from the CCM Coastal Resiliency for downtown. There's, I think the good thing is you're getting all this information together, and that's trying to help you figure out the next steps. The redevelopment authority with an urban renewal plan, there's certain authorities and strengths to it, but there's still, there's still the background of taking these properties. We know that the minute you say that, people, grow greatly concerned and
Right.
what's going on. There'll be some that want you to grab one and sum up, but there's the cost of these, when you look at, there's the legal acquisition costs, so you get it, right? What's the next step then? The demolition clearing of it, which could be greater than the initial acquisition cost.
Right.
And then you look at the development and partnership thereafter. So, I mean, it would easily surpass what the redevelopment authority has in funds right now on just one activity.
Right.
So, but, there are some dilapidated places, especially right on Main Street, that really, needs help and needs to get cleaned up. So it's again, you can go round and round and talk on both ends of it, but I think we need a deep dive on what the actual goals are. And feasible goals, I should say, right? Because we all have great goals, and if we could snap our fingers and make that the best downtown in the world, any of us would do it right now. But how do you get there? And how do you get the public buy-in on that to want it?
And one of the other issues with the downtown, the way it's subdivided now, is that most of the lots are too small to accommodate the standard construction that we're seeing, that the market is accepting. A 10,000 square foot floor plate is the standard format for development in a downtown area. And none of the properties, or just a couple of the properties, are big enough to accommodate that. So if we're gonna see any kind of development in that area, we have to aggregate the properties that are there, which is one of the reasons for having an urban renewal authority to aggregate parcels.
Ken, the urban renewal planning process so far for the village has been enlightening, I think. Derek brought up that we've learned a lot through this process, through the Resilient Main Street study. We have probably an 85–90% product in draft on the shelf. Is it something that if we decide for the time being we don't need it or can't afford it, or we're not willing to exercise the heavy-handed authorities that would come with an urban renewal plan, and then is it something we can keep on the shelf and dust off later if we decide we need to go that way or want to go that way as a town?
Yeah, we could also take it through some of the entitlement process.
Which process?
Entitlement, the approval process for we get the state approval of the plan.
Everything short of
Some
MIPA,
form. Everything short of MIPA.
and there's no cost at doing that.
No, there wouldn't be. Yes, under Emily's scope right now.
So I think that would be well within, rather than keep it going on there, and in the meanwhile, we have the discussions on it. You do have the money available, I just need to, what's the return on investment?
Right.
So,
And it seems we have had some success, and it was spurred on by the urban renewal planning, that we approached the planning board about a rezoning
yeah,
and creating a sub-district, WV1R. It seems like we have the a la carte option. You know, the next thing we're talking about is air rights. We don't need an urban renewal plan to discuss that here and, you know, make suggestions to our town administrator, to the select board and the town at a town meeting. I'm becoming persuaded that maybe we don't need to spend the money now on the MIPA phase of the urban renewal plan, but we just finished the process up to this point with getting the state approvals up to and accepting the MIPA approval. It seems like there's no downside to that, no more cost.
all right, it's,
Right.
We just push it into the state bureaucracy and wait for it to pop back out again.
yeah, just a little bit of time, and we've already, you said it's under Emily's scope of work.
Right.
Yes, I definitely wouldn't shelf it at this point and keep it going, and then try and figure out the rest of it, as we go along. I don't think there's any problem with that.
Do we
The
need a vote?
best thing, and I think, and sorry to interrupt, the best thing I think the best thing that happened was it brought a microscope back to Main Street. You know, brought it back to, instead of the drive-through. One of the biggest things I wish we could do, and I've just been trying to figure out how to do it without going so draconian, is to keep the tractor trailer trucks from driving through downtown.
That would help, yeah.
Yeah,
No way.
yeah, but,
State highway, it's kind of
Yeah.
hard to keep them off.
yeah, because most of them are just GPS or something's taking them through as a cut through, and they could have stayed on 28 or.
Yeah.
Well, on this item then, Ken, do we need a motion to basically memorialize the WRA's intent that we bring the URP close to the goal line with the rest of the state approval process, but for the time being, defer expending money on the Massachusetts Environmental Policy Act Office approvals?
Well, I think what I do is I look for grants for the MIPA review.
Okay,
And we hold on that aspect of it, and we just continue on as we have been in advancing the urban renewal plan.
okay. And I don't think we need a motion or a vote for that to happen, so
No.
Ken, if you don't mind pursuing that.
We'll be fine.
And Ken, that brings us to the report from the Director for Planning.
Well, we have a developer that's interested in the Eastern Bank building downtown, and should have something to submit within the next month, if they're willing to proceed on the project.
Are
So
you
that'll
able-
be kind of exciting to see what happens there.
Are you able to provide us with any broad strokes? They plan to keep it like it is, knock it down?
Keep it as it is and build a tower above it, residential units above.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Ken?
The Tremont Nail Factory, got another inquiry about it, but so far our developer is still somewhat involved in it, in that one of their offshoot companies is still paying rent on the steel building at a rate of $12,000 a month. Which,
Which goes to the rental revolving account for Tremont Nail, which you can only expend those funds on Tremont Nail.
Tremont needs it as well too, though.
Right.
So
No, that's the thing, I just want people, when they heard that, to understand where the money's
It's not
allocated.
gonna go in somebody else, someone
Yeah.
else's pocket, right?
So what does that mean, Ken? The TNF is in suspended animation, and we're getting rent for the steel building, but that's about it for right now.
That's right, and,
As nice as that is, I think our goal is to make that a viable spot, whether tourism active. I actually started reading, almost jives with, these,
Yeah, right.
so.
And Ken, the Parker Mill Dam, I guess,
well, that's the key to the developer's advancement of the plan and on the site, is the decision on what to do with the Parker Mill Dam. Once that's resolved and,
I have an easy resolution, the developer pays to remove it. You should float that to them, Ken, if that's what's holding it up, the developer can float that and we will work together, and whatever land shows up thereafter will be part of the whole complex.
You should have thought that one up a year ago. Sorry.
I think it's slightly tongue-in-cheek, but
I don't
Ken's,
think-
Ken's writing it down, so we'll see what happens.
I got that part.
okay, so
yeah,
bottom
the
line,
cost of that is an enormous cost, and it's something that we're gonna have to get federal money probably, or state money. There's a lot of state money to actually make it happen.
and do we have a definitive town decision on removing the dam?
The town is, at this point, wants to remove the dam, completely remove the dam. And the question is whether the design has to look like, how it's gonna fit.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Yeah, Littleton Drive is proceeding apace. They're continuing to do a very good job of building the units there. The building commissioner has glowing reports of the cooperation and the capabilities and the standards that are maintained by Penrose at the Littleton Drive project.
You know, it was nice too, we held the poll hearings for putting the new poles down, which I think went down Brown Street, right?
Right,
And one of the neighbors along Brown Street sent to the poll hearing asking if they could Eversource could take down a dead tree, do some other work. And Eversource agreed to it as part of the process, which I thought was really nice and good cooperation.
That's good.
We let the resident know that their request had been granted by Eversource, so.
that's great.
Yeah.
I know Eversource to do that.
It's good to see that kind of dialogue and it being so constructive.
Yeah.
Ken, I think Penrose anticipated opening the housing in November 2024. Are they still on track, do you think?
I think they're still on track for that, yes.
Okay. Great. What else? Anything else?
Do we know when they'd start their lottery process and such?
Yeah, good question.
They could probably start it now if they wanted to. I don't know when they're gonna, I can ask the question and see what happens.
Okay. And have you reached out to the Affordable Housing Trust about a similar program with what they're doing over at Woodland Cove?
I'm meeting with the Affordable Housing Trust this next meeting,
Okay.
October 4th, and
That's a really good suggestion.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any interest or not, but it's, my understanding is the way it's being phrased is it's not for the developer, it's for the residents
renters,
going in
yeah.
there, so.
and if they get the extra money from town meeting as well too, they'll have some additional funds to make the program work.
Okay.
Ken, going back to the lottery process, is that something that typically is promoted well in the local community, since the intent is to allow residents here in Wareham basically first dibs on these units, these affordable housing units?
Yeah, the idea is that there's a fair market marketing program.
Is that something we can help with to make sure it gets out far and wide?
It's something that the state approves, that they have to actually submit as part of
Oh, they do?
their
Oh.
subsidy program. And it's a formal program that's set up. And there's a number of program elements that,
Because it would be lousy if a local resident that really needs one of those units doesn't hear about it in time.
Why don't we wait to hear back from Penrose through him about how the lottery process works?
Okay.
That-
Yeah, because we've heard, I can tell you, I've never had one question about Woodland Cove, about going there, but I've had a lot of questions about
Yeah.
Littleton Drive.
A lot of
Really?
people are interested in going
Yeah.
there, a lot
Okay.
of people.
Oh, good, okay. All right. Ken, anything else?
no, that's all I've got for now.
Okay, thank you, Ken. And as always, thank you for all the good work you're doing for the WRA, and thank you to Jared. I know you've got Jared gainfully employed, helping us out. Jared, thank you.
Jared's been a big help.
Member comments and new initiatives, Mr. Sullivan.
No, sir. I'm so used to Jody, I almost said no, ma'am.
Ms. Whiteside.
You already heard about my latest, which is the parade.
Okay. Mr. Buckland, any comments or new initiatives?
No,
Okay, thank you. I have one, but I'll hold it to the end. Correspondence, Mr. Buckland?
we've received no correspondence.
Prior meeting minutes, August 24th, 2023. Did everybody have a chance to review the minutes? They were pretty succinct from our last meeting. Ms. Whiteside, you were there, any edits, any concerns with the minutes?
No, sir.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Moved.
Second,
And hearing no discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
aye.
And any abstentions?
I'll abstain on that.
Okay, 301, the motion passes, the minutes are approved. One thing I would like to mention, and then I'll open it to resident comments for the remaining minute that we have today. I think the discussion we had in the urban renewal plan for Wareham Village was good. And actually, Derek, the meeting maybe 6 or 8 weeks ago, where we talked about maybe kicking off an urban renewal plan for Cranberry Highway, I think was helpful for me. It helped me crystallize really that we're at an inflection point with the WRA where we have to decide what's important, what to do next.
Mhm.
And it seemed like after that discussion we had a month or so ago, that we didn't need an urban renewal plan for Cranberry Highway to become revitalized. It's revitalizing in a piecemeal fashion, but it is looking better. It's revitalizing. So without the expense, the extraordinary expense now of crafting an urban renewal plan, and it appears we don't need takings as a heavy-handed tool to make that happen. And so I think what I'd like to just throw out there is between now and our next meeting, if you could give some thought to what we as a WRA ought to be focusing on in the future. We've almost finished an urban renewal plan that we're probably going to stop at the finish line. There are other things that we could potentially do to benefit the town and take advantage of our authorities. So I would just ask that you give that some thought and that we be prepared to discuss that at our next meeting.
You what? Okay. I was just thinking about maybe some outreach externally, but why don't we do internally and then we can do outreach as sort of next step.
Okay? And I've already started looking at what other redevelopment authorities do, what they spend their time on to be constructive. And I'll have a few ideas, but I'd really like to hear what you have to say so that we can craft effectively our own game plan for moving ahead over the next year or two. And I'll finish up with resident comments. Do we have any comments from residents today? I see a packed house. Mr. Muniz, thank you, sir, for joining us today. Congratulations on your recent appointment. Ms. Scharf.
I just have a question about the meeting that's taking place after this about the village fishing pier. Is
Yes.
that open to the public?
If you've posted it as a public meeting, Ken, did you post it as,
I didn't post it as a public meeting.
okay, and you're not gonna have a quorum of the WRA there?
Correct.
It'll just be me and Ken, I think, for the first one, right?
Yeah.
Jared and
So I would guess the answer's, it's
Answer's
not,
no.
it's just,
Okay, hearing no other comments from the residents, I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
So made.
And do I hear a second?
Second.
Mr. Buckland beat you to it. Mr. Sullivan, all in favor of adjourning? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. We adjourned at 10:02. Thank you, everybody.
Good names of the